Welcome to Pro Football, first 50 years, where we take the past and we bring it back to life. Now, I'm strictly talking the first 50 years here, 1920 to 1970, and especially if you're going to go back in time and check out a game, maybe from the 1920s or the 30s. Oh, sure, you can go online and find a box score, who won, who lost, how somebody scored a touchdown, how far a field goal was that someone kicked, what the attendance was, where the game was played at. You might find starting lineups for each team. But exactly what happened during the game? Well, thanks to old newspaper articles, we get to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every game during the first 50 years of professional football. Now, no news flash here for you. Ain't no fancy videos or nothing like that. All there is you and me for the next 30 to 60 minutes. So if that's all right with you, let's get it on in today's game. Oh, my goodness. Two very disappointing teams for the 1959 season. The Los Angeles Rams take on the Detroit Lions at Briggs Stadium November 15th, 1959. Now, these teams had just played each other a couple weeks prior, with the Lions getting the first win of the season. The Rams won 2 games on the road. They were actually 2-2 at one point, only 1 game out of first place after 4 weeks. And that was it. They didn't win another game the rest of the year. I mean, they didn't win a game at home all year. The Detroit Lions didn't do much better. They wound up winning three games all season long. They had a tie, but I mean, just, these teams here from 1945, when it was the Cleveland Rams, the last game the Cleveland Rams ever played. They were in the championship, 1945 championship. Then they went to the championship in 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54 was the Detroit Lions. 55 was the Rams. 57 was the Detroit Lions. So, like, from 1945 to 57, these teams, what was it? 9 out of the 13 championship games from the Western Division, the teams that went were either the Rams or the Lions. 9 out of 13. And this major disappointment. Let's pull up the Lions here. I'll show you. The Lions had it. Now, both these teams actually had, it was just preseason, but both of them had rather successful preseasons, had some hope. I mean, actually, some people had the, just reading articles and all, actually had the Rams as, possible contending for the title in the Western Division. And, of course, the Lions, who won the championship in 57, some people had hopes that they could maybe repeat. All right, let's, where are we at here? Okay. As you see with the Lions here, I mean, and for crying out loud, the Lions played 7 preseason games. I mean, 12 regular season games. They played 19 games altogether during the season. 7 preseason games. I mean, that's bananas. Literally, it would take a team nowadays almost 3 years to play 7 preseason games. And yes, the starters, the All Pros, the Hall of Famers played in every game. They didn't. We're going to bench. We don't want so and so get. No, they played. Oh, they played. But you'll see here. This is for the Lions. Actually, their first preseason game was in Boulder, Colorado, against these Rams, and he had a 20-20 tie. Now, this is wrong here. I don't know if this is Pro Football Archives. I don't know if they care. I don't know if anybody else really cares. I don't even know if I even care. But so I don't know how to get a hold of them. Once again, I don't even know if they even care. But this game is wrong. Here they have with the Lions won 21-19. The Cardinals won this game 21-19. So this is wrong here. But I mean, you'll notice here, right? Out of they won 1, 2, they won 3. preseason games. Oh, I'm sorry, 4. They won 4. They won their last 3, and then they beat the Browns. So they were 4. They had 2 losses and a tie. So they were 4-2-1. So not a bad preseason. But then you'll notice a funny little thing happened along the way. They started out of the gates 0-4. They lost to the Colts, the Packers. They lost to the Colts again, then the 49ers. Now, these were these 4 games, there were 3 different teams. The 3 different teams that out of the first 4 games, all very good. They all wound up with winning records. So it was a tough schedule. Then they beat the Rams, and then they beat the Rams again. And then they beat the Cardinals, who were absolutely horrible, too. Now, this will be the second time, once again, as I said, that the Lions would beat the Rams. Both games, the Rams actually outgained the Lions. But they were just not able to put enough points on the board. And as I said, in this game here, where the Lions won this game 17-7, the Rams actually outgained the Lions. But the Rams were only able to manage to put 7 points on the board. And the same thing here, not 7, but the Rams outgained the Lions, but they come up short on the scoreboard. Then we go to the Rams. Rams once they had their exhibition season, it was not bad at all. Once again, they had there you go, right? They played the Lions and they had that tie. But they only played 6 preseason games, right? So they had 3 wins. They had 2 losses and a tie. So 3-2-1. So respectable. But once again, that's just preseason. Regular season is a little different animal. But they lost a tough game right here. They could have beaten the Giants in this game here. But then they got blown out by the 49ers. They lost to a very good Bear team. I'm sorry, they beat a very good Bear team, and then they blew. This might be the biggest loss in Vince Lombardi's coaching history. They beat the Packers by 39 points in Green Bay, or actually Milwaukee. The game was played at Milwaukee County Stadium, right? Yeah, County Stadium. So they beat the Bears, and they blew out the Packers. They were 2-2, and then nothing but losses the rest of the season. Final game, 8 games, all losses. They didn't even win a game at home. And, of course, Sid Gilman would step down as head coach at the end of the season, but he would go on to better success, shall we say, in the AFL. The Bears started slow, but the Bears won, I think, their final 7 games of the season. So the Bears finished 8-4. So the Bears were a very good team. But to go into Chicago and win 28-21, and then the following week, play the Packers, who at the time were 3-0. The Packers are actually the only undefeated team in football at the time in Week 4. The Rams went in 45-6. As I said, I didn't look. I'm just kind of assuming Vince Lombardi's teams don't lose by 39 points very often. So I'm kind of assuming this might be the worst loss in Vince Lombardi's coaching history, 39 points. I said, but after that, all losses. Very, very disappointing. Very, very disappointing season for both these teams. So this game was played at, let's see. It was, there won't be a quiz on this at the end of the video. It was played at Navin Field / Briggs Stadium / Tiger Stadium. Once again, won't be a quiz on this at the end of it. But at the time they were playing in the stadium, it was Briggs Stadium. So, Tiger Stadium, previously known as Navin Field and Briggs Stadium, which is what it was called in 1959, because it didn't change names until 1961. So it was a multi-use stadium located in the Corktown neighborhood of Detroit, Michigan. It was nicknamed The Corner for its location at the intersection of Michigan and Trumbull Avenues. It hosted the Detroit Tigers from 1912 to 1999. Wow, 87 years. I say this like every time I talk about like this stadium or other ones. It's a shame because it opened up the same day that Fenway Park did. And thankfully, luckily for us, us old-time farts or whatever, Fenway Park's still around. It's a shame they couldn't do the same thing with Tiger Stadium. Tiger Stadium, it was, I think 1999, the last game, Tiger Stadium was in 1999. So, I mean, it's been 25, 26 years, whatever, since almost 27 years ago was the last game played in there. It's a shame, but let's see. So the Lions played there from 38 to 39, and then again from 41 to 74. 1895, the Detroit Tigers owner George Vanderbeck had a new stadium built at the corner of Michigan and Trumbull Avenues. The stadium was called Bennett Park and featured, unfortunately, a wooden grandstand and wooden peaked roof in the outfield. At the time, some places in the outfield were only marked off with rope. 1911, new Tigers owner Frank Navin ordered a new steel and concrete baseball park. Yeah, wooden doesn't last very long, and also it's, I mean, not that a concrete or steel stadium, couldn't catch fire, but a wooden one that's a fire hazard. Especially going back to the 1910s and 20s, their fire codes were a little different back then. So Frank Navin ordered a new steel and concrete baseball park to be built on the same site that would seat 23,000 to accommodate the growing number of fans. Navin Field opened up on April 20th, 1912, the same day as Fenway Park. While constructed on the same site as Bennett Park, the diamond at Navin Field was rotated 90 degrees. Shoeless Joe Jackson scored the first run ever at Navin Field. Over the years, expansion continued to accommodate more spectators. In 1935, following Navin's death, new owner Walter Briggs Sr. oversaw the expansion of Navin Field to a capacity of 36,000 by extending the upper deck to foul poles and across right field. By 1938, now this doesn't happen very often, but the city had agreed to move Cherry Street, allowing for the left field seats to be double-decked, and now renamed Briggs Stadium had a capacity of 53,000. Well, because a lot of times the stadiums were just, as big or as the city blocks that they were plopped in amongst. Right? There are other examples where the stadium was inhibited one way or another, or it couldn't be double decked or this, that, because there was a street right behind it. And a lot of times, the street took priority. They usually don't want it moving city blocks or city streets. But in this case, they were able to. I mean, especially a lot of times if you got like houses there and, whatever, and stores and all, you just can't move pick a street and move it, or, with all these stores and everything around it. So for this instance, they were able to do that. So in 1961, new owner John Fetzer took control of the stadium and gave it its final and longest-lasting name, Tiger Stadium. A fire gutted the press box on the evening of February 1st, 1977. The Tigers sold the stadium back to the city of Detroit, which then leased it back to the Tigers. Let's see. As part of this transfer, the green wooden seats were replaced with blue and orange plastic ones. And the stadium's interior, which was green, was painted blue to match. Unfortunately, by the early 1990s, it was clear that Tiger Stadium was at the end of its useful life. Both the city and the Tigers' ownership wanted a new park, but many campaigned to save the old stadium, which unfortunately never wound up happening. Ground was broken for a new park on October 29th, 1997. There we go. Bennett Park over here on October 12th, 1907, during a World Series game between the Tigers and the Cubs, 1907. So this was the park beforehand. But the players that played here. I mean, it was like all-star games, World Series, just regular season. Also football championship, couple championship games, as they're going to talk about here in a minute. Just the players that played there. I mean, I keep bringing it up all the time. The 1971 All-Star Game. Holy cow, Batman! The amount of Hall of Famers that played in that game. It was just like it was like who's who. It was unbelievable. Reggie Jackson hit one. I think might have been off of Doc Ellis. You can see it on YouTube. Over the right field. Out of the stadium. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, that game, it was a lot of home runs. Right? The American League won, I think, 6-4. All right. Tiger Stadium was home to the Lions from 38 to 39, again from 41 to 74. Stadium hosted 2 NFL championship games in 53 and in 57. Both games were won by Detroit. The football field ran mostly in the outfield from right field line to left center field parallel with third base. The benches for both the Lions and their opponents were on the outfield side of the field. In the 1970s, the city of Pontiac and its community leaders made a presentation to Metropolitan Stadium Committee of a 155-acre site on the city's eastern boundary, north of M59 and near the intersection with Interstate 75. Initially, a dual stadium complex was planned, and that included a moving roof that was later scrapped due to high costs and the lack of a commitment from the Tigers. The Metropolitan Stadium Committee voted unanimously for the Pontiac site. In 1973, ground was broken for a stadium to exclusively house the Lions. Lions played their final game at Tiger Stadium on Thanksgiving Day, November 28, 1974, against the Denver Broncos. And I watched that game because it was Thanksgiving. There was only 2 games on that day. There was no school. I was home. I was 10 years old at the time. So, but I mean, boxing matches there. Obviously, soccer was there. Kills played a concert there. All kinds of concerts there. University of Notre Dame played University of Detroit there. Crowd of 52,000. It was the first Notre Dame football game to be played at night. Yeah, I mean, crazy. 1921, Babe Ruth hit what is believed to be the longest verified home run in Major League Baseball history. The home run went to straightaway center field, clearing the stadium and landing into the street. The distance of the home run is estimated at up to 575 feet. And 1934, Ruth hit a 700 career home run, and all the dude was, I think he drank beer and ate hot dogs, unlike the guys today who take steroids and all kinds of stuff like that. Did home runs, but yeah, what a stadium! What a stadium! Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even share that. I'm sorry. I was reading away that I didn't even share it. I apologize. I'm an idiot. All right, so we got some pictures here now. Let's share the pictures here. Share screen. Here we go. Detroit. It's a Briggs Stadium. All right, as I said, it's tough to tell. I'm not, because it's really, I mean, I can't say this is the Lions here. It's tough to tell who this team is. Tough to tell. But you can see the layout of the field here. Right? Got the infield over here. But you can see, I mean, you can see there's a big distance from like if you're way over here and the game is being played over here, you're a far distance away. Here you got a picture right here. Look at the gap here, right? So it goes, here's the diamond, right? So it goes basically from like first base all the way out there to like the left field wall. But you can see, look at the gap, how far it is from here to here. I mean, my goodness. And you can see, as I said, I mean, if you're like way over here and the game is like way over here, wow, you're a long way away. Let's see here. And it's the same thing on this side here, too. I mean, there's a big gap here. Big gap. So once again, as I said, so you're like if you're like way up in the stands on this side over here and the game's over, you're pretty far away. Here's another picture right here. Goal lines. But once again, as I said, you can see. You can see the distance. Not sure what's going on here. Goal line. I don't know where all the fans at over here. They can see they're packed here. I don't know. But yeah, I'm saying you can see the gap. The gap over here is far away. This one here, I always love looking at this picture. I was wondering, right? Lions and Leon Hartratch is one of his 2 TDs for Bobby Lane. The 17-6 win against the Browns. Now, the interesting thing, though, right, is did this ball go over the crossbar? He jumped up and caught it above the crossbar? Or is it did it somehow just go underneath it? Very interesting, because you can see, I mean, he's up in the air, and he's extended really high. I'm kind of wondering, did that ball go over the crossbar, or did it just go underneath it? One of his history's mysteries, something I'll never find out. Let's see here. Anything else? Here's a beautiful. Looks like somebody colorized this picture here. Right? Yankees versus the Lions. There's the Lions. There's the Yankees right there. So somebody colorized this picture, but I mean, just really beautifully colored up. Yeah. Doak Walker running with the ball right there. And here's something more modern. Now, this could be 1959. This could be 59 because not only do the Lions don't have any insignia on their helmet, but the Packers don't either. The Packers didn't have an insignia on the side of their helmet in 1961. So this is possible. This is a 1959 game. Tiger Stadium. This is 1959 Detroit Lions. Facts book for the press, radio, and TV. Let's see, we got another one here. What is this here? There we go. 19, is that 59? There you go. Oh, but that's Green Bay City Stadium. So that's nope. That ain't this one. And then I'll show you one more. I show you this one here. I like this one. Right? See, all it is just pipes. It looks like gas pipe. Right? So it looks like right? So all it is just connected. And of course, down here they want to put a whole bunch of padding around it because however this is put into the ground, however, certainly don't want to run into it. Now you see the picture right here. You see in the background here. See the padding that they wrap around there. So if you run into it, here's that's a tackle right there, brother. Huh. Oh, Paul Horning, right? And here's Briggs Stadium, the outside of it. See the Detroit Tigers over here, right? Briggs Stadium, advanced ticket office. So that's how you used to buy your tickets, right? Had to go to ticket offices and couldn't go online. Why? Because there was no online. Right? Sometimes you had to go to the ticket offices and get them, and it is what it is. All right. So what's the word on the street here? What do we got? Let's go to the Detroit Free Press, the November 15th, 1959 edition of the Detroit Free Press. See what they got to say. Let's see here. I got to find it. Yeah, all right, here we go. Lions versus Rams. This is funny. Lions versus Rams. It doesn't mean a thing. Oh, there we got to do this again. Every one of these pages, you're going to have to refresh it. It doesn't mean a thing. Off last week's performance, Terry Barr looks like the Lions' best pass receiver. He has good speed and actually hangs on to the football. Now, interestingly, I mean, the Lions had issues all season long with their passing game. But Terry Barr was actually playing on defense. They put him on offense. I think he caught 2 passes the week before. All right, what we got here? X-Powers will battle for the cellar. And crowd reflects plight, no sellout. Possibly the most startling development of the 1959 football season is the plight of the Lions and the Rams. 2 proud old rivals, long accustomed to great things, they meet Sunday in a struggle to avoid last place in the Western Division of the National Football League. Game time is 1:30 at Briggs Stadium, and as might be expected, no sellout crowd is likely. Several thousand tickets are still available. This has been a crazy mix-up season for the Lions and Rams. When it all began almost 2 months ago, the power-packed Rams were regarded as the most likely successor to the champion Baltimore Colts. The rebuilding Lions were conceded a good chance for the title. In the weeks since, they have been hurt and unlucky. Budding victories have escaped them. Their quarterbacking unexplainably went sour. In those games where the offenses moved, neither the Lions nor the Rams have been able to score consistently, and that's the name of the game, scoring. So here they are on the 8th leg of the 12-lap race. The Lions with only 1 victory and a tie. The Rams with a mere 2 victories in 7 games. Coach George Wilson of the Lions has juggled his team like a mad magician in recent weeks. The Rams' Sid Gilman, growing more desperate, is still making changes. Gilman has benched quarterback Billy Wade, even though Wade has completed 62% of his passes. The choice now is Frank Ryan, but Gilman will call the plays. Wilson has entrusted everything to Earl Morrall, who, like Ryan, is a second-line quarterback. But Tobin Rote is hurt, otherwise Morrall might not have the chance. Morrall will call the plays. Yeah, Rote hurt his knee. Rote was banged up. Rote hurt his I think it was his thumb on his non-throwing hand, and then he hurt his knee. He was playing good. It was a couple of weeks prior, and he wound up hurting his knee, and he got taken out of the game, and so he's been hurt. So a week ago, Wilson daringly converted defensive back Terry Barr, who's in that picture I just showed you, into a pass receiver. So they took a cornerback or somebody in the secondary and just made him make a wide receiver. That ain't happening nowadays for the most part. Yeah. If you're a cornerback, usually you're probably going to be a cornerback. What do they say? The reason why the person's a cornerback and not a wide receiver is because he can't catch. But it was a master stroke. Barr responded with 2 fine catches and one of 37 yards. Barr will be back at the flanker post. Gilman, too, is showing resourcefulness in an effort to lift the Rams. He plans to wreck the Lions with power. Tom Wilson, a fleet-footed halfback, has been dropped from the lineup. In Wilson's place, Gilman has inserted Joe Marconi, a power fullback, who always hurts the Lions. Running alongside Marconi will be Ollie Matson. Together, they promise many bruises for the Lions linemen. The new alignment in the backfield might tend to make the Lions forget the Rams' passing game. It would be a sorry mistake. And once again, the Rams did a very good job in this game, passing-wise. I mean, yardage-wise, shall I say. They almost it was almost 2-1. They outgained in the passing game. Ryan clicked on 15 to 24 passes against San Francisco last week. The Rams receivers, Del Schaffner, who's very good, Jim Phillips, and Leon Clark are as elusive and dangerous as any set in the league. Schaffner is probably the best end in football. Right? Yeah. I'm a Giant fan. He got traded to the Giants when the Giants got Y.A. Tittle. And Y.A. and him were a fine pair. The Lions will have John Henry Johnson available again. He was suspended after the week prior against Pittsburgh. He was suspended. So he had some personal issues, shall we say. Let's see. Running with him will be Hopalong Cassidy. A second set of backs will include Nick Petrosani and either Ken Webb or Dan Lewis. 3 weeks ago, the Lions edged Los Angeles 17-7 with Morrill operating as quarterback. Not much was at stake then. Even less is at stake now. It's strange somehow. Yep. Yeah, I can. Yeah. All right. What else we got here? All right. We got the Bay City Times, November 15th, 1959 edition of the Bay City Times. What do they got to say? All right. Yep. And let's refresh the page. There we go. Now we can read everything. Lions put Morrill at quarterback for the Rams game. Earl Morrill, who piloted the Lions to their single victory, will try for a repeat performance today against the Rams. He did it before. Maybe he can do it again, said Lion coach George Wilson. Morrill has been summoned for the second time this season to take over for the ailing Tobin Rote. Last time, Morrill rescued the then winless Lions by pitching them to a 17-7 victory over the Rams in Los Angeles. A week later, he lost the number one quarterbacking job back to Rote. It's what they say: if you got two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks yet. This I can't even talk about it. They've had quarterbacking, passing issues all season long. I mean, they even put another guy in there, Jerry Reichow, and he wasn't the answer either. So, it's like you put one guy in, pulling him out, put somebody else in. Then beginning of the year, they had the quarterbacks calling the plays, then the coach was calling the plays, and then they were going back for a period where the quarterback was calling. They just kept mixing things up and just trying to, I guess, look for a spark, but nothing happened. Nothing came of it. Now Rote is hurt again, and Wilson is hoping for an encore of the game in L.A. It'll be difficult. The Rams are still 2.5-point favorites, have been stung by a 3-game losing streak started by the Lions. Coach Sid Gilman and many of his players reportedly are on the spot. There has been revived talk in Los Angeles that Gilman's job is in danger. Such reports have prevailed for 3 seasons. But this season, the Rams were preseason favorites in the National Football League's Western Division. They have won only 2 of 7 games and are only a half game ahead of the last-place Lions. The Rams' troubles have followed the same pattern as the Lions. Los Angeles has an outstanding offense, probably the most explosive in the NFL. The Rams have moved the ball well, only to have their attacks fizzle out near pay dirt. Los Angeles is endowed with a core of fast and powerful runners. No team in the league has as many good running backs as Ollie Matson, John Arnett, Tom Wilson, and Joe Marconi. That's a fine group right there. I mean, you put Bobby Mitchell. I'll put Bobby Mitchell and Jim Brown there. Then of course, Paul Hornung and Jim Taylor. So but I mean, Arnett, Marconi, and Matson. That's a fine group right there. Rams quarterback by Billy Wade is second among the league's passers. He has gifted receivers in Del Schaffner, Leon Clark, Jim Phillips, and Arnett. Yet the Rams have lost 5 of their 7 games, and much of the blame has been placed on Gilman. The Lions will use the same offensive alignment employed in last Sunday's disappointing tie with Pittsburgh. Terry Barr will return to his new flanker post and become Morrill's number 1 pass target. Wilson said Barr would not be used at his customary defensive halfback spot at all against the Rams. Nick Petrosani and Hopalong Cassidy probably will be in the running back positions. John Henry Johnson will return to the fullback following his 1-game suspension. Johnson is not expected to start. All right, and we got one more here. We got, pull it up. All right, we got the Los Angeles Times, November 15th, 1959 edition of the Los Angeles Times. What do they got to say here? As soon as I find it. There we go. All right. Detroit snowy as the Rams tiff Lions to avert cellar. Los Angeles 1.5-point choice today. Clear skies are the forecast. And here's the, now of course, let me refresh the page. Now of course the game starts at 10:30 in Los Angeles. So I guess it's on channel 2 if you live in Los Angeles. And if you're alive on November 15th, 1959, at 10:30 a.m., you can watch the Rams and the Lions play. And here's the offense. Here's the Rams team, and there's the Lions team. And note, there's only 36 players. Excuse me, 36 players on a team. So every player was very valuable. The two victory-hungry football teams, the Lions and the Rams, neither of which ever figured to be at the bottom of the Western Conference standings, square off here tomorrow in a game that will decide for the nonce, at least, whatever the heck that means, undisputed cellar occupancy. After a 5-inch blanket of snow yesterday, the weather turned to rain this morning. Prediction is for cold weather tonight, but clear tomorrow with a temperature of 28 degrees. Wow. This is only the middle of November. It's supposed to be 28 degrees. Coming up to this game, the Lions with the 1-5-1 record are at last place, only by half length. The Rams are atop the Detroiters with a 2-5 record. Despite prospects of an off-field, the Rams are favored by 1.5 points. Both clubs have been having all sorts of trouble. The Lions didn't win a game until their 5th start. They have hung a 17-7 upset on the Rams in Los Angeles. Last Sunday, it appeared that the Lions would snag victory number 2, but had to settle for a 10-10 tie when Bobby Lane, my bad. I was supposed to keep going down. When Bobby Lane and his aroused Steelers clicked for a last period touchdown. The Rams, once highly regarded as a possible title winner, got off to a poor start, losing to the Giants and 49ers. Then they seemed to gel on their last road junket and took a pair of games by beating the Bears and the Packers. I said 2 very good teams. After this, though, the Rams could win for losing. Victims of their own mistakes, the Los Angeles Pros lost 3 in a row to the Lions, the Bears, and the 49ers. As a result, there have been audible cries for Coach Sid Gelman's scalp. This is generally the case when a coach is cursed with a losing team. Gilman has made several offensive changes for tomorrow. He'll lead with his number 2 quarterback, Frank Ryan, who turned in a commendable performance last Sunday in Los Angeles against the 49ers. Bill Wade, regular quarterback, started against Frisco, but had more than his share of troubles. He was yanked in favor of Ryan in the second quarter. With flanker back Jim Phillips, where did that happen? Still sidelined with rib injuries, John Arnett will again play the third end spot. Ollie Matson remains at fullback. Joe Marconi goes in at Arnett's old left halfback position. Marconi usually plays fullback. Marconi's presence in the backfield relegates Tom Wilson to the bench. He started last week's game. It's extremely doubtful if All-Pro guard Dwayne Putnam will play due to a sprained ankle. Putnam can't make it. Tackle Bob Fry will shift to guard. Rookie Gene Solowski will take over for Fry at left tackle. The other guard position is being manned by John Hauser, who's still in there in the absence of Buck Lansford. Lansford will be missing his 4th straight game since rupturing his kidney playing the Packers. Oh, man. Terry Barr, usually found in the Lions' defensive backfield, will play with the offensive backs. He'll line up in a backfield composed of Howard Hopalong Cassidy, fullback Nick Petrosani, and quarterback Earl Mall. Veteran Tobin Rote originally was scheduled to start at quarter, but he's been injured. Morrow was at the helm when the Lions upset the Rams 4 weeks ago. Tomorrow's game will be televised, as I mentioned, in Los Angeles over KNXT Channel 2, starting at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Radio broadcast will be over KMPC, just in case you wanted to know. All right, so that's a little bit of the pregame. Yeah. What happened during the game? Let's go to the Press Telegram, the November 16th, 1959 edition of the Press Telegram. What do they have to say? All right, here we go. Rams hit bottom. Let's refresh the page, shall we? Rams hit bottom with fumbling thud. Schaffner lone star and fourth straight loss. There we go. Picture here. Arnett, Johnny on the spot. Rams halfback John Arnett was in a 16-yard pass from Frank Ryan in the second quarter of battle with Detroit. Defending is Jim David, while Ram and Leon Clark moves in the block. Rams fell into Western Division cellar, losing 23-17. Rams hit rock bottom Sunday. The team picked by some to win the National Football League title and by most to finish among the top three in the Western Division, dropped to last place by losing to the Lions 23-17 before 52,271 fans at Briggs Stadium. It was the fourth consecutive defeat for the Rams, their longest losing streak since 1956 when they lost 5 in a row. And it was the fourth straight game in which Sid Gilman's team was given a performance devoid of inspired team play and chock full of fumbles and errors. What's wrong with the 59 Rams? Since Sunday's most recent setback seems so typical of all four in the loss scheme, let's examine some of the theories advanced by coaches and players. 1. Fumbles. Coach George Wilson of the Lions claimed the Rams are like his club, victims of a few crucial bad bounces. Of course, he added, they sure fumbled at the wrong times today. Wilson was so right. Leon Clark's fumble in the third quarter gave the Lions the ball on the Ram 23. 4 plays later, Detroit climbed into a 20-10 lead. Ollie Matson's fumble early in the fourth quarter resulted in a time-consuming Detroit drive that was stopped only by the gallant Ram defense. And finally, John Arnett's fumble led to the field goal late in the fourth quarter that made it 23-10. Bad play calling. Long Beach's Jim Martin, who played every minute on defense for the second straight week, thinks the Rams' offense may be getting too stereotyped. Jim, who is having a big year for the Lions, said they used to keep you off balance with all that wonderful talent, but now you can pretty much well see the pattern in their play calling. A quick and unofficial check of the first half of Sunday's game bears out Martin's theory. Rams follow a set play pattern. Rams followed a rather set pattern of run, pass on the first, second, and third down situations. First down run, second down run, third down pass. Presented with 12 first down calls to make, Ram quarterback Frank Ryan and Billy Wade called 8 running plays and only 4 passes. On second down, they called 10 runs to only 3 passes. But on third down, with Red Dog linemen rushing down their throats, they called 7 passes and only 3 runs. Ryan is the worst offender here, but he is inexperienced. Gilman obviously should call the plays, but with 2 guards and a key end out, he is devoid of shuttling play carriers. I may shuttle coaches next week, Sid vowed after the game. Shuttle coaches. Gilman also admitted the Rams must pass more than we have been if we're going to win. Weaknesses in the offensive line. Lion Joe Schmidt, an all-pro linebacker, commented, the Rams don't hurt you as much as some offensive lines. You got to have those horses up front. The Rams certainly did not have the horses up front Sunday. All-pro guard Dwayne Putnam joined his hard-blocking running mate Buck Lansford in the sick bay. Putnam may be back for next week's game. Lansford is not expected back until the Rams return home. Without this pair, the blocking of Ollie Matson and Joe Marconi Sunday was insufficient. Those who claim the Rams' defense does not measure up to the NFL standards took a setback Sunday. Gilman termed his defense unit good enough to win any NFL game. He was right. The Lions got 6 points on the Rams defense. Detroit and Ray Middleton beat cornerbacker Eddie Meador, caught a pass at midfield and scored on a 79-yard play. The rest of the Lions' scoring came on field goals by Martin, 2, and Jerry Perry, and errors by the Rams' offense. But while the Rams' troubles are myriad and complicated, one fact remained beautifully true Sunday. Del Schaffner is as good a pass receiver as there is in the NFL. He was good, boy. If it had not been for 2 brilliant Schaffner catches, one good for 60 yards and the other good for 67 yards, the Rams may have gone without a touchdown. Yale Larry, who was the only man assigned to Schaffner on most plays, commented, "Actually, I was right with him on both those long ones, but he just made fantastic catches. Best way to stop Schaffner is to trip him at the line of scrimmage. That way, it only costs you 15 yards. I like his honesty there. Oh, yes, there was one other interesting bit of background data on the Rams' losing streak. It's a rather ominous bit, too. If you are the suspicious type, you might make something out of the fact that with one unemployed coach named Hamp Poole was a visitor to the Sheraton Cadillac here Sunday. Wow. Yeah. So this is. Whew. The Cleveland Browns, who now boast the NFL's longest current winning streak of 5 games, hate to part with the ball. They have lost the ball only once on a fumble in 8 games. They've lost 1 fumble in 8 games. Not only that, they've lost only 4 interceptions. Both totals are league lows for the season. I mean, that's impressive. They've only lost 1 fumble in 8 games. So, I mean, that's really impressive. For back then, what else do we have over here? Ryan's the next great Ram quarterback. He might be the next maybe great Browns quarterback, but I don't know about the Ram. But Ram coach Sid Gilman either resigned to his fate or in an unusually talkative frame of mind refused Sunday night to play the role of a man in danger of losing his job. Gilman held court with writers after his team's 4th straight loss, and if he was worried about being replaced at the Ram helm, he certainly did not show it. Sometimes terse, sarcastic, and unwilling to volunteer any information to the press, Sid was most cooperative Sunday. He smiled frequently, joked at times, and talked seriously of the Rams' future as if he fully expected to be part of it, which he would not be. His answers to most questions were carefully considered and thoughtfully phrased. "What did you think of Frank Ryan's quarterbacking?" he was asked. "I thought Ryan did a fine job. He's the next great Ram quarterback as sure as I'm sitting here. He's cool, very cool. He can run very well." "What did you think of the Rams' defense?" "I thought the defense played good enough to win any NFL game. They did a heck of a job for us. The loss has to be credited to the offense or to fumbles, whichever way you boys want to put it." "Do you plan to continue to call the plays from the sideline?" "Yes, we do. If we have to shuttle halfbacks, ends, tackles, or even quarterbacks to do it, we'll call the plays." "Do you plan to again use Ollie Matson and Joe Marconi in the same backfield?" "Yes, we do. If Jim Phillips is ready to play end next week, we might make some changes, but both Matson and Marconi will stay in the backfield." "Do you think Phillips and Putnam, guard Dwayne, will be able to play next week?" "Putnam is doubtful, but Phillips should be ready. We certainly miss those 2 and Buck Lansford. I think Lansford might be ready to play again by the time we get back to the Coliseum." Incidentally, the loss of Lansford has hurt us more than most of you realize. He's one of the great guards in the league. Over in the Lion dressing quarters, Coach George Wilson had words of praise for his quarterback, Earl Morrall. "Morrall needs experience, but we sure have not given up on him. Far from it. The only 2 games we've won, he has been a quarterback." And one thing, boys, Wilson cautioned, don't fault Morrall for the pass call on 3rd down with 1 yard to go in the 3rd quarter. He called the run in the huddle, then changed to call it the line of scrimmage because of the Rams' defensive setup. It was not a bad call. Long Beach's Jim Martin, who kicked 2 field goals and played every minute on defense for the second straight game, said the Rams were similar to his own club. They just could not become a cohesive unit. They just can't seem to pull together. All right, so let's go now to, is it the Los Angeles Times? Okay, the Los Angeles Times. The November 16th, 1959 edition of the Los Angeles Times. What do they got to say? All right, here we go. Lions shove Rams into the cellar, 23-17. And let's refresh. Here's that same picture from before with John Arnett, I think, right? Making a catch, 16-yard gain. Favored Los Angeles loses 4th in a row with costly fumbles. That thud you might have heard out there in Los Angeles along that about 1 p.m. today was the once mighty Los Angeles Rams hitting the cellar of the Western Division Professional Football Conference. Favored as usual, this time by 1.5 points. The Rams lost their 4th straight here this cold, overcast afternoon to the Lions, 23-17 before it set a capacity crowd. Briggs Stadium, 52,271. For a team once acclaimed as one of the best in pro football, the Rams are hanging on with a 2-6 record. But the only thing they can brag about is that they own the best offensive record in the league. Today, the Rams outgained their opponent 302 yards to 222. Yeah. The other opponent, though, didn't fumble away the ball game. The Rams did. 3 times the Rams bobbled and 3 times the Lions pounced on the loose ball. 1 fumble set up a Detroit touchdown. Another led to a field goal. Only a masterful defensive stand by the Rams line prevented additional scoring. A fine forward wall of Lamar Lundy, Lou Michaels, George Struger, and John Lovatier held on it to 1, I guess. The Rams have now committed 24 fumbles. They've lost the ball 14 times. As I just read that article, that the Browns lost it 1 time. So they've lost 13 more fumbles in 8 games than the Browns. And that's just fumbles. That doesn't include interceptions either. Each club collected 2 touchdowns. The thing that tipped the score in the Lions' favor was field goals. Jim Martin tried 3, was successful twice. Jim Perry was 1 for 1. The Rams' Lou Michael tried 4 3-pointers. He was right only once. Before the Rams could blow up a head of offensive steam, the Lions had a 10-0 lead. Quarterback Earl Morrall connected with end Dave Middleton for a 79-yard scoring pass late in the initial period. Early in the second period, Martin booted a 41-yard field goal. Morrall went the route for the Lions as he did 4 weeks ago in Los Angeles when he led Detroit to a 17-7 victory. He completed only 6 of 14 passes, but his throws added up to 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Well, one of them was a 70-something yard, but he was only 6 out of 14. Wow. He might have had another on a completion to Terry Barr. Okay, so let's go to the next page here. The Los Angeles Times. Here we go. They covered 59 yards in the third quarter, but his team was penalized for not refreshing the page. But his team was penalized for pushing. Not sure what the heck that means, but Frank Ryan opened at quarterback for his desperate Rams. He had difficulty getting the offense moving through the first quarter. But after Detroit had gone in front 10-0, Ryan slipped into high gear. His throw that traveled 66 yards in the air was caught by Del Schaffner for a 69-yard advance. Schaffner made a miraculous reception on the Lions' 14 despite the closeness of defenseman Yale Larry. 3 plays later, attempting to punch the ball across from the 1, Ryan was injured. Bill Wade came in and on 4th down gambled on a pitch out to fullback Ollie Matson, who raced wide to his left for a touchdown. As it later developed, Ryan's injury wasn't too serious. He came back on stage in the final quarter to spearhead the Rams' second TD. On this one, he sailed the ball 55 yards in the air again to Schaffner. Dell snagged the pitch on the Lions' 25 and ran to the score. The play covered 67 yards. For the afternoon, Ryan completed 8 of 14 aerials for 202 yards. Wade's efforts amounted to 8 completions on 12 throws for 55 yards. I mean, they had over 250 yards of passing. They couldn't get it done. The fumbles, turnovers. Matson was the ball-carrying workhorse for Los Angeles. His net was 54 yards and 20 carries, was his lowest in 6 games. Matson was outdone by John Henry Johnson, Detroit fullback, who scrambled out of Coach George Wilson's doghouse to roll 56 yards and 19 carries. Excuses don't win ball games in this hard business of pro football, but the Rams were noticeably handicapped by injuries to key personnel. All-pro guard Dwayne Putnam couldn't play because of a sprained ankle. Tackle by Pry was shifted to sub for Putnam. Rookie Gene Solowski, took over at left tackle for Fry. For the second straight week, John Arnett was used on the flank as replacement for the wounded Jim Phillips. Arnett hooked 4 passes for 63 yards. Unfortunately, he was hit so viciously by halfback Jim Steffen after a fourth quarter reception that he fumbled. Gary Lowe recovered on the Los Angeles 36. 9 plays later, the Lions had another field goal on the Perry's boot from the 15. Coach Sid Gilman started out allowing his quarterbacks to call their own plays. In the final period, though, he started alternating halfbacks Joe Marconi and Tom Wilson as messengers. The 82 yards the Rams gained rushing was the least that they had netted this season. Credit for stopping this ground attack must go to the stout line defense anchored by all-pro middle linebacker Joe Schmidt. A slippery turf also was a contributing factor. A heavy tarpaulin had protected the field from recent snow and rain, but it nevertheless was tricky. The game was played in 34-degree weather. And, of course, but it said 34 degrees. I think it said the other article said it was 28 degrees. But let's see. Excuses hover about Rams Hotel. All right. Anyway, 50 seconds before intermission, the Rams tied the count at 10-10 when Michaels kicked the field goal from the 28, but the deadlock lasted through only 41 seconds of actual playing time. After the kickoff, Detroit launched a drive from its own 23. Morris passed the bar, went for 32 yards when an interference penalty was called against safetyman Don Burrows. On a reverse that Gilman had specifically warned against last week on his television show, Barr got loose for 18 yards. Then Morrill hit Jim Gibbons with a pass that gained 20 with the ball on the 17 and 9 seconds in the half remaining. Martin towed a 25-yard field goal to give the Lions a 13-10 halftime lead. It was Leon Clark's fumble after catching his first pass of the day that set up the Detroit second touchdown late in the period. He dropped the ball after slipping and being hit. Tackle Gil Maines recovered for Detroit. 9 plays later, Morrill passed 11 yards to Johnson for 6 points. Oh, there we go. Here's the so Morrill completed 6 passes for 134 yards. Yeah, the Rams had like 257. This is not including the sack yards that got taken away too. But the Lions only had 10 first downs all game. 222 yards at 302. Right. There's the rushing yards. Both teams. Whoops. Matson was the next Ram to fumble, and this time Perry recovered on the Rams' 19. The Lions moved to the 7 in 3 plays. 4 plays later, they were still short when Johnson was stopped a yard from the goal line. when Ryan arched that second long pass to Schaffner with less than 2 minutes of the game remaining. The catch represented the fifth of the afternoon for the Rams All-Pro wingman. It also gave him an individual receiving total of 169 yards. I mean, back then in the day, if you caught 5 passes in a game, 60 for a season, that was good. I mean, now people are catching like 5 and a quarter. It's ridiculous. I mean, the passing that we have also has to do with the field, the artificial turf. A lot of games are in dome stadium. Of course, the rules, you're not allowed to look at the receivers, or they throw a flag at you. Everything's geared toward the offense. You got to score points. Right? But back in the day, you caught 5 passes in a game, and that was impressive. With 2 more road games upcoming against the Eagles and Colts, the Rams might concentrate on throwing the ball even more. They went overhead 26 times today. A suggestion would be more passing, particularly the kind aimed at Schaffner. It's beginning to look like Dell is the only guy who can lead the Rams to a much-needed touchdown. Ex-coaches hover about Rams Hotel. It probably didn't mean a thing, but with the Rams in a horrible slump, 2 former Los Angeles coaches and a former general manager were very much in evidence here today around the Sheraton Cadillac Hotel where the Rams are stopping. Bob Schneider, who coached the Rams in 1947, and Hampton Poole, who tutored the club part of the 52 through the 55 season, were the ex-coaches on hand. Tex Schramm, who was general manager before the arrival of Pete Rozelle in 57, was mingling with old associates. Well, because Pete Rozelle would be the NFL commissioner, Tex Schramm would want to become part with the Cowboys. So some heavy hitters there. All right, so let's go on now here to the Detroit Free Press, November 16th, 1959 edition of the Detroit Free Press. What do they got to say about the game here? Gotta find it first here. All right, here we go. Let me just refresh this. I had to refresh everyone. Oh, yeah, let me show you this picture. This guy here. See this guy? It looks like he's dead. I mean, he's dead now, but for Walter Williams, a big cake. Well, good for him. God bless this guy. He's 117 years old. Are you freaking kidding me? Last survivor of the Confederate Army and one of the oldest men in the world is cut during the day-late birthday Sunday in Houston. Around the bed left the 3 of his surviving children. 117, and this is 1959, and he fought in the Civil War. Holy crap. God bless the man. Oh, my goodness. Whew. Unbelievable. All right. Our Lions are in last place no longer. The tormented ex-champions escaped from the hole which has held them all season as they bounced up smartly Sunday to whip the Rams 23-17 before 52,271 faithful followers at Briggs Stadium. This marks the second straight week that the Lions have not lost. It's true. They tied the week before. It's enough to make a fellow change his mind about a few things. Remember John Henry Johnson? He ran like a mad bull. Remember Dave Middleton? He ran like a scared rabbit. Remember Jim Martin and Jerry Perry? They finally kicked like field goal kickers. Heroes abounded in the Lions' second victory of 1959. It should not matter that both victories were over the Rams, who now inherit last place from the 5th place fast-climbing Lions. Earl Morrall, the second-string quarterback who pitched the Lions to a 17-7 conquest over the Rams 3 weeks ago, did all the pitching this time. He connected for 2 touchdown passes, guarded the Lions' attack smartly to a season-high point production. 23 points. Not very impressive. The total easily could have been doubled. Detroit lost 3 probable touchdowns. The Lions led all the way except for a 43-second span just before halftime when the Rams managed a 10-10 tie. After going ahead again, Detroit was in firm command and out of danger until the final 2 minutes. That was when the Rams' fleet Del Schaffner outraced the Lions defenders to take a 67-yard scoring pass from Frank Ryan and pull Los Angeles within 6 points. But the Rams never got the ball again. Johnson, the problem boy. All right, so let's go to the next page here. the Detroit Free Press. Share that. Share the screen. All right, Johnson, the problem boy. Oh, and let's refresh the page. I don't have to do that. All right, we got here. There we go. Here's Matson. Lions chase Matson across the LA score for LA score on a sweep from the one as he went wide. Here's the standings. Very, very. And this is disappointing. The Packers started off 3-0 and they lost 5 in a row. But then the Packers will rebound to win their final 4 games and finish 7-5. But all right, there we go. Where are we at here? So fullback just returned to the Lions after this. This we finished here. It said John Henry Johnson, the problem boy. He had his personal issues. That's why he was returned to the Lions after a 1-week suspension. In Middleton, the good doctor, who some said had lost his speed, were the key men in the Lions' success. They proved that they were people who were saying was not necessarily so. Johnson showed the dash and the power which several years ago marked him as one of football's most dangerous runners. Middleton showed the speed which the Lions have sorely missed. It was Middleton's speed which first cracked open the Lions and sent the Lions winging on their way to victory. Late in the first period, with the Lions having crushed 2 budding Ram drives, Middleton shot upfield from the Detroit 21, took in a sharp pass from Morrill in midfield, and hot-footed to the end zone for the opening score. Early in the second period, Martin booted a 41-yard field goal, the first of 3 kicked by the Lions to raise the lead to 10-0. Detroit's defense, meanwhile, was doing a splendid job of stopping the Rams. The one man to beware of was Del Schaffner, who must be the best end in football, bar none. And if he's not, he's in the top 2 or 3. That's for darn sure. Schaffner showed why. With Yale Larry riding his heels down the sideline, he took a 60-yard pass from Ryan to set up the Rams on the Detroit 7. Ollie Matson scored from the 1 to reduce Detroit's lead to 10-7. Later in the period, a 22-yard pass to Schaffner helped set up a tying field goal by Lou Michaels from 28 yards out. Only 55 seconds were left in the half at that point. But Morrill brought the Lions from their own 23 down to the Rams' 17 in that 43 seconds. A penalty, an 18-yard run by Terry Barr on a deep reverse, and a 20-yard pass to Jim Gibbons gave Martin his chance from the 25. Martin made good on his kick for a 13-10 halftime edge. The Rams never were really in it after that. 3 fumbles, 2 of them the result of jarring tackles, ruined them in the second half. Leon Clark bobbled after taking a pass late in the third period, and Gil Maines recovered for the Lions at the Ram 23. Morrill pushed the Lions to the 10 and then shot a pass to Johnson, who slipped around 2 tacklers and scored for a 20-10 lead. A fumble by Matson at the Ram 19 opened the way for a Detroit rout at the start of the 4th period, but the Lions pounded to the 1 and could get no further. Midway in the period, John Arnett fumbled at the Ram 36. This one paid off for Perry's 15-yard field goal and a 23-10 lead. With the decision sealed, the Lions apparently were no longer so intent on watching Schaffner. It proved a mistake because he took the 67-yard pass from Ryan, sailed into the end zone, and gave the Rams a glimmer of hope. It was too late, though, for them to do much about it. The Lions stalled through the closing 2 minutes, never giving Los Angeles another chance. Let's see anything else. All right, so then we got. Right, so I got a little bit more here. And where are we at here? Oh, there we go. that's not it. My bad. All right, let's try this here. Here we are. My bad. I do apologize. This is the November 16th, 1959 edition of the Detroit News. Lion victory bolsters job security. And here's, look. Is this somebody flying through the air? First of 3 Lion field goals. Jim Martin, known as the line drive place kicker, met a line drive defender yesterday. Don Burrows of the Rams sails straight over the line blocker, Ollie Spencer, in an unsuccessful attempt to block a 41-yard field goal by Martin. Right here, number 47. So he kicked the ball. He's sailing straight over he's just diving. I mean, crazy. Crazy. The ball is safely above everyone. Martin also kicked another field goal of 25 yards, and Joe Perry had one of 15 yards. I mean, look at it. He's just diving. There's the ball way up here. Whew, crazy. All right. Earl Morrall, John Henry Johnson, and George Wilson have done wonders for their job security with the Detroit Lions. In professional football, one man's bread is another man's poison, as they say. Sid Gilman probably will be done away with as coach of the Rams because he lost twice in one season to the Lions, a team that can't beat anybody else. The most important byproduct of Detroit's 23-17 victory before 52,271 chilled spectators yesterday at Briggs Stadium is that the Lions have vacated the Western Division cellar. In fact, they are ahead of 2 clubs in the jockeying for the league player draft meeting November 30th in Philadelphia. Last week's tie with the Pittsburgh Steelers now is vital. The Lions have a 2-5-1 loss record for 286 winning percentage. The Rams and the Cardinals are one bracketed at 2-6 for a 250 winning percentage. Detroit may have squandered the number 1 draft choice. President Edwin J. Anderson said 10 days ago that the Lions, distressed by their signal calling, were trying to make a deal before November 30th for a proven quarterback for 1960. The 25-year-old Morrall has started 3 games in Detroit uniform and won 2 of them. If he continues to prosper, the Lions may regard him as proven for next year. It cost Johnson $1,200 in penalties for missing an airplane from San Francisco 2 weeks ago. The Lions weren't counting the in and out fullback in their 1960 plans. But yesterday, John Henry had 56 yards on 19 tries, outgained the fabled Ollie Matson, who had 54 yards and 20 tries. How are you going to fault the performance? Perhaps Wilson wasn't about to lose his job. His bosses said he'll be back, but last April, the Tigers also insisted that Bill Norman was safe, and he was fired May 2nd. 2 victories over the Rams certainly won't hurt Wilson at contract time. Wilson has played spoiler role to the something hilt. Oh, to hill. Roll to the hill. Spoiler to roll to the hilt against the Rams. He can turn his attention to spoiling his old boss, George Halas, next Sunday at Briggs Stadium. Beat the Bears. That's what we got to do, said the coach after giving his players 2 days off for their upset. As for Morrall, he was steady and not particularly spectacular. He completed only 6 passes, 170-yard production with Dave Middleton for the first touchdown that blitzed the Rams in the opening period. Mostly, Morrall stayed on the ground, manipulating Johnson and Hopalong Cassidy on the running game. Why didn't Morrall pass more? We were doing pretty well on the ground, Morrall explained. I believe in sticking with what is going for you until it fails. Once the Lions needed 1 yard on the 3rd down, Morrall shifted gears and called for a pass. The Rams blocked it, and the Lions had the punt. John Henry played with the zest and determination that had been absent from his performance since 1957. Johnson had a 43-yard run called back because of a penalty. Lions got the necessary yardage on 3rd down plays only 3 times in the game. John Henry was the big man each time. It was John Henry's best game this year, said Wilson, who had suspended his fullback without pay for one Sunday in the airplane incident. He's still a good back when he wants to be. He missed an airplane ride, an airplane back from San Francisco, and that's why he got. But that's because he was given papers. He was supposed to show up in court when they were in San Francisco. He was given papers to show up in court, and he basically, I guess he got the pay. He just disappeared. So he disappeared. Nobody could find him, and he missed the plane going home. So John Henry scored the decisive touchdown in the closing minutes of the third period when he swished 10 yards with Morrow's pass. Johnson cut so sharply that 3 Ram defenders, Les Richter, Bill Jobko, and Will Sherman, overran him awkwardly. Of course, the Los Angeles generosity was important. 3 times in the second half, the Rams fumbled in their own territory. The fumbles were pounced upon by Gil Maines, Jerry Perry, and Gary Lowe of the Lions defense. The fumblers were Leon Clark, Matson, and John Arnett. This is what gave the Detroit offense the momentum to take the heat off the defensive unit. Joe Schmidt and his men were the real heroes of the victory. For the second straight Sunday, the enemy was held under 100 yards rushing. The Pittsburgh Steelers made only 66 yards against Detroit, the Rams boasting a 5.1 yard running average for 7 games, got a meager 82 yards. Their average yesterday against the Lions was a feeble 2.7 yards per carry. The Rams stayed alive on Frank Ryan's pass to Del Schaffner. A 60-yard strike in the first half set up Matson's touchdown from the 1. Combination clicked again when Detroit seemingly was perched on a safe 23-10 lead in the last 3 minutes. This time, Ryan and Schaffner went 67 yards for a touchdown. Lou Michaels' conversion trimmed the margin to a shaky 6 points. Lions had to seize a 12-yard onside kick scooped up by rookie Mike Rabel and kill time like crazy to extract the victory. So the Rams did go for an onside kick, but the Lions scooped it up and were able to, I guess, pretty much run out the clock. So that's the way it was. So, I mean, it's just, And we got here. What do we got? All right. Questions that call for answering the 23-10 upset Detroit Lions over the Rams. Why was Earl Morrall's 59-yard pass play with Terry Barr called back after Barr crossed the goal line in the third period? Referee George Renix, Detroit had an ineligible receiver downfield. That's a 15-yard penalty. Yell Larry was jostled getting away a punt in the third period. Why wasn't a penalty called for running into the kicker? Renix. The Los Angeles man was blocked into Larry by a Detroit player. After Del Schaffner's 60 or 69-yard pass play with Frank Ryan had taken the Rams to the Detroit 14, the Lions were penalized half the distance to the goal. Why? Renix. They roughed up Ryan after he got rid of the ball. What happened to Charlie Ann in the first half when Bill Glass took over the center job? Ann suffered a recurring shoulder injury. Glass shifted from the defensive end. Glass did a fine job, said Morrow. Why wasn't Bill Wade called for intentionally grounding a pass when he was trapped behind the line by the Lions? Back Judge Cleo Deal. The ball landed near an eligible receiver, Joe Marconi. It's a judgment call. Was John Henry Johnson in motion himself on the play in which a 43-yard run was called back? Rennick said no. A Detroit player was illegally in motion on the left side of the line. George Wilson didn't operate the messenger service to call plays from the bench. Was Earl Morrall completely on his own? Wilson said, we called 9 or 10 plays, that's all. On the play in which John Henry Johnson missed a touchdown from the 1-yard line, why didn't Detroit go for a field goal and 3 points? Wilson, we were leading 20-10 with about 12 minutes left in the game. We figured time was on our side. If you missed the touchdown, as Detroit did, they had to go 99 yards to score. As it turned out, the Rams couldn't get out of the hole and had to punt. When the Rams pulled within 6 points of Detroit with less than 2 minutes remaining, an onside kick was obvious. Detroit sent 9 men up the field and had only 2 safety men near the goal line. Why did Lou Michaels go through with the short kickoff? Said Gilman, we had to go for it. The ball can take a bad bounce, This time it didn't. Rookie Mike Rabel covered the ball for Detroit. All right. And then, let's see, Jim Martin. Whoop. As Rams quarterback Frank Ryan tackled in the end zone on this play. Why wasn't it a safety? Referee George Renix explained Ryan's forward progress hadn't been stopped when he got the pass away. Like a few others in the game, it was a judgment call. But you'll notice here, it's interesting because, like, the things going on, and they talking to refs afterwards, and the refs are giving them answers. I mean, I don't know much about anything kind of like that goes on in the NFL nowadays. I mean, like once the refs run off the field, nobody's talking to them. You're not getting the referee crew on. Let's get on it. Let's answer some questions about what happened. You ain't getting none of that. Weird. So just goes to show you things were a little bit different back then. But as I said, this is just a battle of a couple teams, two proud teams. Both had expectations on doing obviously much better in the 1959 season, and the winner of this game, all it did was basically get them out of the cellar. So I mean, for the Rams, a long season. They were 2-2, and they would lose the final 8 games of the season. They would wind up in last place. And for the Lions, who lost the first 4 games of the season, they would only wind up winning 3 and tying 1 for a 3-8-1 record. So for both these teams, it was extremely disappointing season, 1959. So that's the way it was on this date, November 15th, 1959, as the Los Angeles Rams played the Detroit Lions at Briggs Stadium in pro football, first 50 years. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.